Hi, I'm Wendy from Hillstart Nutrition, Health and Wellness, and welcome to the Are You Really Going to Eat That podcast. I am a huge foodie and I'm also a qualified nutritionist. And I started this podcast because I really wanted to talk about food quite a lot actually, but also it was really important for me to help people cut through the headlines. There is constant contradictory noise around food and nutrition. And in this podcast, I give you my honest opinion, my hopefully educated opinion. I also interview some experts and also some great foodies as well. The purpose of this is to give you those facts and those tools so you can go away and apply them to your own diet and the food that you eat, and hopefully give you some inspiration along the way. It comes with a word of warning though, don't listen while you're hungry. How you all doing? It's November and it's going to be cold. I'm not actually recording this in November, I have to be honest. This is being recorded in October. But it's mid-afternoon and it's already dark and I'm just thinking about those cold winter days. I love the change of seasons when it first happens, and then when we start to get to the end of November, it's my birthday in November by the way, when we start to get to the end of November I start getting very fed up with it, and it's months before it gets any better, isn't it? So this is episode 61 and it's a solo episode in case you haven't realised, and this week I just wanted to have a chat with you. It's something that I've already covered in my Ditch the Diet membership, so if you haven't heard me talking about Ditch the Diet before, that's my monthly membership where it's a really great community. I love the community spirit in there, and we talk about different nutritional topics every month. So each month is a different theme, and fats was one of the themes that we had. Every week I send out a new recipe, some of them healthy, some of them not, and we also have a great closed Facebook group where you can come on and basically ask me questions as a nutritionist or as a foodie anytime you want to, and if I'm not there answering it, some of the other community members will. So it's a brilliant community, great for you if you are sick of that diet roller coaster and you want to understand more about eating healthily, that you don't get the headlines, you don't understand it, there's so much noise at the moment. If that sounds like you, then Ditch the Diet is definitely for you. Go and have a look. It's called ditch-the-diet.co.uk. All the information on there. I'd love to have you as part of the group. So yeah, this week we're going to talk about fats, which we've already discussed before. But while I'm on, I just wanted to let you know that I am doing a 7 days, 7 ways to a healthier you. It's not a challenge. I don't like calling it a challenge, but it's a 7-day program that I'm going to be running from Sunday the 22nd of November. If you're interested in signing up for that, it's just basically, it's me, there's going to be a closed group there, and I'm going to give you my 7 tips. It includes the 6 fundamentals from Ditch the Diet. So if you're a Ditch the Diet member, you already know what those are, but it's the 6 fundamentals plus the basis of all healthy living, which is water. So you go, I've given you the first one. But if you're interested in that, come over and join me. I'll be live every day. I'll be sharing a tip, giving you a challenge, a task to do for the following day around that healthy tip. And the ideas are that you build up over time. So I'm going to give you some tools to take away. You build it up over time, and trust me, you will feel healthier after 7 days, but if you keep doing that, you will feel healthier for the rest of your life. I'm also going to throw in some recipes, and I'll be cooking some of those recipes live during the week, and explaining to you how they fit in with those fundamentals and why I've chosen those recipes. So even if you only sign up for the recipe pack, it's got to be worth doing. So that starts on the 22nd of November, and if you go to hillstart.me.uk 7 days, you'll find the link up there. It's totally free. So come on and join me. It'll be great fun. Honestly, trust me, you'll enjoy it. So back to this week's episode 61, and we are talking about fats, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Fats scare people. I find that I'm of a certain age where we grew up with the kind of the low fat diet was kind of what we were told to do. And then I know people who still won't buy a full fat yogurt and absolutely balk at me eating full fat yogurt and full fat cheese. Hence the name of the podcast. Are you really going to eat that? And yes, I am. And we have this kind of, I think because we've been told it so many times, we have this misconception that fats are bad, and it's just like everything in nutrition, it's just not that simple. So there are some good fats and there's some bad fats. You know, I don't like talking about food like in bad and good terms, but I think with fats we need to understand a little bit more about the sort of the science behind them and what they do and why we need them. One of the reasons that fats were kind of deemed to be so evil, and I kind of get it really, is particularly if you're talking about sort of calorie deficit. So often when we talk about weight loss, we talk in terms of reducing calories, and the very simple terms are that if you eat less calories than you consume, you move, if you like, you expel, then you're going to lose weight. Very, very simple. But that's also a very simplistic way of looking at it, because as we've talked about hundreds of times, 100 calories of chips is different to 100 calories of apples or broccoli. We all know that. We're not stupid, but we still end up doing the whole calorie counting thing. And fats, when we're counting calories, have big numbers, because carbohydrates and protein only have 4 calories per gram, and fats have 9 calories per gram. So that becomes pretty scary, doesn't it? And immediately, if you're going for that calorie deficit and you're wanting to lose weight, you're immediately balancing the scales. But remember, our bodies need to be nutritionally fed, and fats do a whole host of things, absolutely tons and tons of stuff. Not least, they help create hormones. So we're not just talking about women's hormones and men's hormones, we're also talking about things like serotonin, which is our happy hormone, melatonin, which helps us sleep. So you can see how this whole cycle can become quite dangerous if we just start cutting out fats willy-nilly. Then what functions in our body are not going to happen. And that's what I want you to think about first and foremost is, forget the numbers. We don't like the numbers. Think about what these things do for us. And healthy fats just help our bodies work properly. Think about your joints, so your joint metabolism. They also help with messengers. So I mean messengers as in transferring messages around your body, so your brain to your fingertips. Everything that you do is a message. You do things without realizing, but actually pretty much everything that you do requires a message to be sent either from your brain to that part or from that part of your body back again. So again, fats help with that. So feeling sluggish, feeling tired, feeling unhappy, is it fat? Who knows? So bear those in mind. And I want to help you. Oh, cholesterol. Let's not talk about cholesterol when we're talking about fats. So there was this whole kind of thing that, cholesterol is bad. We need cholesterol for our DNA. So cholesterol is not bad. Too much of the wrong kind and an improper balance is bad. But again, it's headlines, isn't it? And actually to take away the headlines and delve a bit deeper, and there's a much bigger story to it. So cholesterol is really important in our bodies. Now, you don't have to eat cholesterol, we will make it, but we make it from the food that you put in. So we need fats for that. So, yeah, there we go. So I'm going to let that settle for a minute, and I'm going to talk to you about the fats. So fats can be put into 3 main types. We have saturated, we have unsaturated. Let's do the best ones first. So unsaturated, saturated, and trans fats. And I would put them in an order like that. So unsaturated are kind of the ones that you can, in effect, eat as much as you want of, unless, again, they're 9 calories per gram. So you need to be aware of that. But they are the ones that we can eat fairly in abandon, let's say. Then you have your saturated fats, which we need to be a little bit more mindful of. And I'll explain what's in them in a minute. And then we have our trans fats, which are the ones that we really don't want. So I'm going to talk about those first. I'm going to work backwards and I'll tell you about the trans fats, the ones that we really don't want. And trans fats, the way to remember it is it's fats that have been transformed or changed. And the reason we don't want that is because our body knows what saturated fats are, and our body knows what unsaturated fats are. And they have we go a little bit sciencey here, but bear with me. They have a specific shape and a specific chain of molecules. And when they come into our body recognises them and it processes them in a certain way. A little bit like, I don't like artificial sweeteners. This is kind of on that same kind of vein. So if you've listened to my sugar episode, I'll link to that in the show notes. If you've listened to my sugar episode, then again, this is kind of the same kind of thought process, is that our body doesn't know what it is, and so it doesn't really know how to deal with it. And trans fats, what happens is it's processed and it changed the molecule formulation. I'm sure a scientist could tell you a much better terminology, but this is how I remember it, and hopefully that might help you remember it. And it means that the fat is in a different form at room temperature. So think about margarine, okay, and think about butter. And so butter, which is kind of what margarine came from. So butter is solid at room temperature, but margarine is spreadable at room temperature. And that happens through a chemical process, through a manufacturing process. And so therefore it means that margarine is artificial. It shouldn't be liquid or spreadable at room temperature. Now, Big Food did that because it was a great idea, because you know what? It made it easier. It meant that we didn't have to remember to take the butter out of the fridge an hour or so before we wanted it on our toast. It means it didn't rip our bread. Wow, what a revelation. But what they didn't realise at the time, and what we're learning now, is that actually our body didn't really like it, and it didn't really understand how to process it properly. So as with everything that we say is avoid stuff which isn't natural. And that's why, guys, I eat butter and not margarine. You won't find any margarine in my fridge. And yeah, I rip the bread quite a lot. But hey, it tastes great. So trans fats are not good. Again, trans fats are things that often are fried. So when we fry it, that actually changes the consistency. So if you overheat fats, they become trans fats. But then that gets a bit complicated. So let's try and keep it easy. So think about things like crisps and donuts. Now they're going to contain a lot of trans fats because they've been fried, they've been added to the products. And then they contain this lovely combination of sugar and salt in a really clever way. Big Food are amazing at this, and they know that fat and salt and fat in sugar in the right combination makes us want to eat it even more. So you're not just getting something that your body doesn't need. It doesn't need trans fat. There is nothing in our body that needs trans fats. It does us no nutritional benefit. Then combined with sugar or salt, we don't need excess of either of those, and then combine that with that magic combination which makes us want to keep eating it. Kind of a recipe for disaster, isn't it? So it isn't your fault that you overeat donuts and crisps, because actually they have been made to satisfy us, to hit those receptors of foods that we love. I am really selling crisps and donuts to you at the moment, aren't I? And I'm meant to be telling you not to eat them. But what I want you to understand is that, again, it's not just as simple as, I can manage these, or I'm a bad person, or I have no willpower if I overeat them. Actually, it's a very clever combination of that mouthfeel, that crisp, that balance of fat and sugar and fat and salt, which kind of bypasses our if you like, our brain function to know when we're full. So it's not your fault, but be aware of it. And if you're aware of it, you can put things in place that will help you. So I like crisps, I say this many times on the podcast, I like crisps. But what I will do is, if I've got one of those huge big family bags, I will take some out and put them in a bowl, so I know how many I've eaten, so I don't get to the bottom of that massive family bag and go, who's eating all the crisps? I don't think it was me. I don't remember eating them. Has that ever happened to you? Or if it's the donut and stuff, don't buy the massive packet, or put them away, freeze them, get rid of them so that you are aware of how much you're eating. So we started with the trans, the bad ones. Cut them out as much as you can. They do you no good. Then we're going to talk about unsaturated fats and saturated fats. So saturated fats are kind of the next one up on the scale. And they're okay. They're not bad. I would say this is the one that I have to be most mindful of, because saturated fats are often in animal products, and they are they are in solid at room temperature. So you're thinking butter. Coconut oil is actually a saturated fat, and I know that nutritionists often call coconut oil really healthy, and it's a bit complicated, and let's not go into it and just say that they're not bad. Coconut oil is one of the better ones, but it's often animal products, so you don't want to be having too much of this. Very high animal products without kind of lots of vegetables and stuff isn't great for our heart health. So this is the one that I tend to have to be a little bit more mindful of. I love butter. We have full fat milk in our house. We have full fat cream. We do eat dairy products in our house. Some people can't eat it. That's fine. But we're very careful about how much meat we do eat. And I eat loads and loads of vegetables to balance that out. So I'll have a very small amount of butter or cheese. But what I would rather do is have the best quality. So that's what you need to think about with saturators, is anything that's kind of animal product based. So of course, if you're vegan or vegetarian, vegans, you're not going to be getting any of this, and vegetarians, you're going to be getting very little of this, which leads us then to unsaturated, which is the best one, which in theory, I would say we can eat and abandon, but you can overeat in this. I mean, I'm often say you can't overeat broccoli, but you can overeat unsaturated fats. There is mono unsaturated and there is poly unsaturated. You don't need to worry about that. Just let's say it's unsaturated. So it's unmessed with. And this is the stuff that's generally liquid at room temperature. So you're thinking about your olive oil. We had an interview recently with Just Oils. Again, I'll link to the show notes. I should get my numbers down really, shouldn't I? So I'll link to the show notes. So if you have a look at the show notes, this week's is hillstart.me.uk/61. And I will link to all the other ones in there. And Just Oils make cold pressed rapeseed oil, which is a UK product, which I love. It's literally a few miles from where I live. But rapeseed oil has the same benefits as olive oil. It actually has more omega-3s. This is what we're talking about when we talk about fats. So omega-3 is an essential fat. We have to eat it. So your omega-3s come in olive oil, it comes in oily fish, nuts and seeds. So that's the other one that you want to be thinking about with unsaturated. So it's not just olive oils, nuts and seeds are also really, really great sources of unsaturated fats. And these are the ones that we want to be eating. Avocado. Now, these are the ones that are often vilified by diets, and I say diets in kind of inverted commas, but traditional forms of diets, they will often limit these. Now the reason they do is because of the calorie content in them, but actually as long as we're eating sensible amounts of them, these are so good for you. They are good for your brain function. They are great for your skin health. They're actually really, really good at keeping you full. And then if you think about things like having avocado and having nuts and seeds, they've got a load of fibre in them. Avocado is one of your 5 a day. Remember, it's 10 a day, but let's just say 5 a day because it sounds right, doesn't it? So you are getting a whole host of other nutritional benefit. So no food we ever think about in single terms, but actually trans fat isn't even a food, whereas almonds, we're getting vitamins, we're getting minerals, we're getting fibre, we're also getting fat from them. They are a real food and they are feeding lots of other things apart from just that kind of fat. So don't be frightened of fat is what I'm trying to say. And the other thing you need to know about fat is it fills you up. Satiety is linked to protein and fat. And if we have a diet or a meal that's low in protein and fat, our body burns it very quickly. So this is kind of part of the logic where the ketogenic type diets come from, is that fat makes us fuller. Ketogenic is much more complicated than that, but I'm just using it in these terms. And they sort of say that carbohydrates are bad because they give us an energy spike, and that energy spike is bad and it causes diabetes and things like that. Well, actually, if you combine your food better, you don't have to omit carbohydrates. Yes, omit those processed things that aren't foods anyway, but you guys know I like a piece of bread. I often have porridge for breakfast, but what I do is I make sure I have some protein and some fat. Now, magically, things like almonds have protein and fat in them and fibre. Can you see where I'm going with this? The point of food is that it's amazingly balanced, and it's our responsibility to put it together properly and make sure we eat all different kinds. And I don't believe in cutting anything out, whether it be carbohydrate or fat. It's not the answer. The answer is to get that better balance. So next time you are hankering after a piece of toast, think about, has that got the right balance? Am I getting some vegetables in it? Am I getting some good fats in it? Am I getting some protein in it? And you know what? Peanut butter and almond butter are one of the best ways to do that. And for years we were told peanut butter. I don't think I had peanut butter in my house for probably 15 years. And now I reckon I've probably got about 6 or 7 different kinds of nut butters in the cupboard at the moment. So rethink your attitude to fat and think about the good fats rather than the bad fats. Trans fats, let's get rid of. We don't need them. It's not even food. And let's embrace those wonderful nuts and seeds. You know, be mindful of portion control. But actually, if they help you stay full, then they've got to be a good thing, haven't you? That's it for this week. I've had on my got on my soapbox again a little bit, but hopefully it's educated you a little bit. Do check out the membership if this is the kind of thing, if this is the kind of information that you want from a nutritionist. I don't believe it's about banning anything. I believe it's about having a better education and making better choices. And if that choice is a packet of crisps, then have the crisps and enjoy them, but just be mindful and educated on how that is going to fuel your body or not. So that's it for this week. Join me next week. All I have to say is, what have you got for tea?